I always believed that grief softened with time, that the ache would dull, the memories would hurt less, and one day I would wake up without feeling the empty side of my bed. But years after my husband's death, the silence in the house still felt wrong, like he had just stepped outside and forgotten to come back. People kept telling me to move on. But how does a heart simply walk away from 28 years of marriage? How does a soul forget the only person who ever truly saw it? The truth is, I never moved on. I moved around the grief, decorating the empty spaces in my life with routine chores, and the one thing that gave me comfort, his Rolex watch. It wasn't just a watch, it was him. It still carried the faint scent of his cologne, the warmth of his wrist, the trace of his laughter. I kept it in a velvet-lined box in my bedside drawer, wrapped in a soft cloth like something sacred. Whenever the nights became too long or the world felt too heavy, I would take it out, hold it in my palm, and feel like he was close again. That morning began like any other. I opened the drawer out of habit, wanting to hold the watch before starting my day. But when my fingers reached into the box, they touched only fabric. Cold. Empty. Wrong. My heart lurched. I dug deeper, pulling the cloth apart, overturning the drawer, searching the surrounding floor, my hands trembling more with each passing second. It wasn't anywhere. A sharp panic stabbed my chest. My breath turned shallow, my vision blurred. "No, no, no, please," I whispered, as if the watch could hear me and answer. I must have searched the entire room 3 times before I finally staggered out into the living room. My son Daniel sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone, legs stretched out like he owned the place, like I was merely a guest in my own home. "Daniel," I said, breathless, "have you seen your father's watch?" He didn't even look up. "What watch?" "The Rolex," I whispered. "The one he left me. The only thing I have left of him." "Oh," he said casually, still staring at his phone. "That." The air thinned around me. "What do you mean that? Did you move it?" He finally looked at me, annoyed, not concerned. "Stop whining," he snapped. "I already sold it." His words hit me so hard my knees nearly buckled. "You sold it," I repeated, barely able to push the words out. He shrugged. "Yeah, I needed the money for my trip. It's not like you ever wear it." I felt every part of me break. My chest, my voice, my trust. It wasn't about the money. It was about the last piece of the man I loved, taken without permission, without thought, without a single ounce of respect. "How could you?" My voice trembled. "That watch meant everything to me." "Oh, please," he scoffed. "It was just a stupid old watch. Just a stupid old watch. Just the last memory of my husband. Just the last thing that made me feel like I wasn't completely alone." I went to my room, shut the door, and cried until my throat burned. When I finally gathered the strength to call the pawn shop, I hoped, prayed, that maybe I could buy it back. But the man on the phone said something that made my grief twist into something else. "Fear, Mom. You need to come in. We found something inside the watch." I froze. My breath stopped. Inside the watch. What could that mean? The betrayal had already shattered me, but I had no idea the truth waiting inside that watch would change everything. The ride to the pawn shop felt like the longest journey of my life. My fingers clenched the phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white, and my heart wouldn't stop pounding with a strange mixture of dread and curiosity. What could possibly be inside the watch? My husband was a simple man, kind, loyal, hardworking. He never hid things from me. Or so I thought. As I walked into the small shop, the little bell above the door chimed weakly, barely heard over the buzzing in my ears. The shop smelled of old wood, metal polish, and nostalgia. A man in his 50s with round glasses looked up from the counter. His expression softened when he saw me. "You must be Mrs. Harrison," he said gently. "I'm glad you came." I swallowed hard. "You said you found something inside my husband's watch." He nodded and motioned for me to follow him to a back desk, where the Rolex sat on a cloth, opened like a dissected heart. My breath caught when I saw it again, this time lifeless, cold, and vulnerable. "We were inspecting it for appraisal," he explained. "When we opened the case, we found this." From beside the watch, he picked up a tiny piece of folded paper, no larger than my thumb. It was yellowed with age, edges curled, like it had been hidden for years. My fingers shook as I reached for it. "I didn't read it," the man said respectfully. I could tell it was personal. My throat tightened as I carefully unfolded the fragile note. The moment I saw the handwriting, my vision blurred with tears. It was his, my husband's. I recognized every loop, every tilt of every letter. My heart squeezed painfully. The note was short, written in his neat, steady script. If you're reading this, my love, then our son has forgotten kindness. Inside my lawyer's file is the truth. This watch holds the key to what I left behind. For him only if he proves worthy. If not, then it belongs to you. I love you, Henry. My hand flew to my mouth. A cry escaped before I could hold it back. The pawnbroker stepped back respectfully, giving me space as tears fell onto the faded paper. My husband, he knew. Somehow, he knew our son might grow into the man he feared he would become. Not cruel, but entitled. Not malicious, but careless with others. Especially with me. But Henry had prepared for that. He had hidden a message deep inside the watch, trusting that fate, or betrayal, would eventually reveal it. What does it mean? I whispered, though speaking felt like trying to breathe underwater. The pawnbroker adjusted his glasses. There's more. That's not an ordinary Rolex. It's a rare collector's piece. The market price today is far higher than what your son got. Whoever bought it from him didn't know what it truly was. So not only had my son stolen the last piece of his father from me, he had sold it for pennies compared to its real value. But that's not the real importance. The man added softly, "It seems your husband wanted you to find this." I clutched the note to my chest like it was oxygen. I suddenly felt my husband's presence around me, not as a memory, but as a guiding force. As if he had placed this secret in the watch, knowing exactly when I would need it most. I left the shop with the watch, the hidden note, and a heart full of confusion and awakening determination. When I got home, I opened my email and searched my old messages from our family lawyer. I found a subject line dated from years ago, "To be opened only if your son betrays your trust." My husband had known. He had seen the future before I ever felt it. My hands trembling, I clicked the email, and the world I thought I knew began to unravel. When I opened the lawyer's email, my hands were still trembling, the tiny folded note from the watch sitting beside me like a lifeline. The screen glowed with my husband's name, and for a moment, I felt like he was sitting next to me again, calm, steady, prepared for everything I wasn't. The email contained a single attachment, conditional trust documentation. Conditional. That word alone made my stomach twist. With a shaky breath, I clicked it open. Paragraphs of legal language filled the screen, but the highlighted section at the top was simple, unmistakable, and devastating. Assets intended for Daniel Harrison are to be transferred only if he demonstrates maturity, gratitude, and respect toward his mother. In the case of emotional, financial, or moral betrayal, the full estate shall pass to Mrs. Eleanor Harrison. Me, all of it would come to me. I covered my mouth with both hands as the reality settled around me like a heavy. My husband had loved our son, but he had trusted me more. Trusted my heart. Trusted my judgment. Trusted that I might one day need protection. Tears blurred the words on the screen, and I forced myself to read through the entire document. My husband had planned everything years before he died: investment portfolios, land deeds, business shares, silent partner agreements, long-forgotten accounts. Wealth he had quietly built without ever changing our simple life. He had left it all for our son, only if he stayed kind. My son had failed the condition in the most painful, personal way possible. He'd stolen the last memory of his father and sold it for a vacation. I sat there until the sun dipped low, painting the room orange, feeling both grief and a rising fire inside me. Finally, I called Daniel. He showed up within 30 minutes, probably thinking I'd found a way to retrieve the watch. He walked in like the world owed him something. Like I owed him something. "What now?" he asked, annoyed, tossing his keys onto the table. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The boy I raised, the boy I loved, the boy who used to cry when he scraped his knees, stood before me now as a man who felt nothing when he scraped my heart raw. "I need to show you something," I said quietly. I turned the laptop toward him. The trust document glowed on the screen. He squinted at it. "What's this?" "Your father's inheritance plan," I said. "All the assets he saved. Everything he intended to leave behind." His eyes widened. "What assets?" "He didn't have anything." "Oh," I whispered. "He had more than you ever imagined." His shock quickly melted into excitement. "So how do we get it? Who do I talk to? What's the process?" I held up the watch note with trembling fingers. "You don't get it. You forfeited it." He blinked. "What?" "Your father built a conditional trust. You were meant to inherit everything, if you proved yourself worthy. If you respected me, if you showed kindness. His expression twisted. You're lying. You sold the last memory I had of him. I whispered, tears sliding down my cheeks. Without asking. Without caring. That was the betrayal that activated the clause. He stared at me, disbelief shifting into anger. So he left everything to you. You. Why do you deserve it? Because I didn't betray him, I whispered. Or his memory. Daniel's face reddened. This isn't fair. I'm his son, and I was his wife, I said softly. The one who stayed. The one he trusted. He paced, shouted, cursed, slammed his fist against the table. He begged. He threatened. He demanded. But I sat still, like stone. Years of heartbreak had carved me into something unshakable. When he finally stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook, I didn't chase him. I didn't call after him. For once I chose myself. That night, the house was unbearably quiet. But for the first time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like a beginning. The morning after Daniel stormed out, I woke to a strange feeling. Stillness, but not the kind that hurts. Not the old hollow silence of grief. This was different. This was freedom. For years I had tiptoed around my own son, afraid of upsetting him, afraid of saying the wrong thing, terrified of losing the last person I had. But in truth, I had already lost him long before he sold the watch. I had lost him the moment entitlement replaced gratitude in his heart. Now I understood what my husband had seen years earlier, and what he prepared me for. After making myself tea, I logged into a meeting with my husband's lawyer. He looked at me with gentle eyes, as though he had been expecting this day for a long time. Mrs. Harrison, he said, I want you to know your husband trusted your strength more than anyone else's. I almost cried again. I'm not sure I'm strong. I just don't want to feel this pain anymore. He shook his head kindly. Pain doesn't weaken you. It wakes you. Over the next hour, we went through the details of the estate, assets that my husband had quietly built without ever boasting, without ever changing the humble life we lived. There were investments that had matured far beyond their original value, land purchased decades ago that had now become prime commercial property, shares in 2 companies that had since grown exponentially, and several accounts saved strictly for family legacy. All of it was mine now. When I ended the call, I sat very still for a long time. My husband had not just left me money. He had left me a voice, a choice, a second life. And I knew exactly what to do with it. The sweet revenge, the collector's Rolex, my husband's treasured watch, was worth far more than Daniel had received. I contacted a reputable auctioneer who confirmed its rare model and flawless condition. Within 2 weeks, the watch sold for enough money to change someone's entire future. But I didn't use it to spoil myself. Instead, I created a scholarship fund in my husband's name, something he had always dreamed of, but never had the resources to do. I imagined him smiling, proud. The remaining money I carefully invested into building a life that finally revolved around peace, not pain. I bought myself a quiet home by the sea. Something simple, serene, where every sunrise reminded me of second chances and every wave reminded me that healing could come in gentle forms. Meanwhile, Daniel tried calling, at first with anger, then with desperation, then with hollow apologies that I could hear straight through. I didn't answer, not because I wanted to punish him, but because I finally understood that some distances are necessary for survival. When he realized he had no claim, no inheritance, no money, he began to understand what true loss felt like. The same loss he had forced onto me. It wasn't revenge born of cruelty, it was justice, crafted not by me, but by the man who had loved us both in different ways. A new beginning one evening. As the sun dipped low and painted the sky gold, I stood on the balcony of my new home, holding the faded note my husband had hidden inside the watch. The edges were delicate, worn by my tears and the years it had slept unnoticed. I read his words again slowly, every letter a whisper from him. This gift is for your freedom. Live well. Live for yourself. My heart swelled not with grief, but with gratitude. For the first time in years I felt light, alive, whole. I closed my eyes and imagined him standing beside me, warm, reassuring, proud of the woman I had become, not despite the heartbreak, but because of it. I'm free now, I whispered into the evening breeze. Thank you, my love, for knowing what I didn't. And as the waves kissed the shore below me, I realized that the greatest revenge wasn't hurting those who hurt you. The greatest revenge was finally living the life they told you you didn't deserve.